Hello and thanks once again for taking the time to download and listen to our podcast from CelticUnderground.net. By the time you're listening to this, you will of course have heard the sad news about the passing of the Celtic great Tommy Gemmell. We thought it appropriate therefore to pull together a little audio tribute to the great man. We have a tale from the Celtic Wiki which covers the Lisbon Lions themselves. We then have an interview with Tommy Gemmell, followed by audio of his final trophy as a player and audio of his most famous goal. So this is me, Harry Brady, passing over to him, Tommy Gemmell. Good night and God bless.
When the Lions devoured Catenaccio, another slice of Celtic history from the Celtic Wiki. The image of a sweat-soaked Billy McNeill hoisting aloft the European Cup has become a treasured icon to Celtic supporters. It symbolises the club's greatest ever achievement and provides a constant reminder of just how high this great club can reach. The rightful reverence given to that famous night in Lisbon is an eternal tribute to the fact a homegrown team from the west of Scotland achieved the seemingly impossible by lifting European football's greatest prize. That feat alone is worthy of celebration, but in truth, it is only part of what makes the story of Jock Stein and the Lisbon Lions so special. To fully comprehend the magnitude of this achievement, you have to understand exactly what Celtic had to overcome in the heat of the Portuguese capital. Helenio Herrera's Inter Milan v Celtic should have been a mismatch. It wasn't so much David versus Goliath as David against Goliath's big brother. With his slicked back jet black hair and stylish designer suits, Herrera looked every inch like a man born to manage a money-laden Inter. Yet Herrera's roots were every bit as humble as a former Lanarkshire miner who would eventually deliver the fatal blow to his most remarkable of careers. Born in Argentina in 1910, the son of a Spanish anarchist, Helenio Herrera moved to Morocco as a child, and it was on the dusty backstreets of Casablanca that the future football aristocrat first fell in love with a game that would make his name. His professional life in football would begin in France, where he earned a living as a rather average journeyman defender. In 1945, Herrera would begin his managerial career, taking the reins at his former club, Batu. During the next 14 years, Herrera would manage 6 different clubs in 3 different countries, France, Spain and Portugal. His first real taste of glory came with Atletico Madrid, when he led the Spanish capital's second side to 2 league titles in 1950 and 1951. In the spring of 1958, the Wanderer arrived in Catalonia. His plan was to mastermind the revival of Barcelona. The Catalans were finding life tough, living in the long shadow cast by the scintillating success at home and abroad of a majestic Real Madrid. Yet, in an astonishing first full season, Herrera led Barca to a domestic League and Cup double, while in Europe, the Catalans took home the Intercity Fairs Cup. The league title was retained the following season, as a man now referred to as the Wizard continued to weave his magic. But despite all this, not everyone was captivated by his spell. He may have been the son of an anarchist, but there was not a hint of his father's political philosophy in Herrera, the manager. An ultra-strict disciplinarian, he made no attempt to disguise his contempt for anyone unwilling or unable to conform to his tough regime. Herrera's achievements at Barca should have made him a king among the Catalans, but his arrogant, dictatorial style instead made him a figure equally loathed as loved. As Franco would testify, the Catalans had little time for dictators. Consequently, when Barcelona were humiliated 6-2 on aggregate by Real Madrid in the 1960 European Cup semi-final, it was an easy decision for the Barca hierarchy to make Herrera their scapegoat. Despite 2 league championships in as many years, he was sacked. It was a decision Barca would regret much more than Herrera. By the start of the next season, Herrera had moved to Italy, where he had been lured to Inter Milan by club president Angelo Moratti. An oil billionaire, Moratti's dream was to build a club which would wrestle from Real Madrid the title of the most successful side in Europe. His appointment to Herrera was a moment when that dream started to become a reality. With money no object, Herrera and Moratti set out on building a team to conquer a continent. Hard cash obviously helped pay for their finest materials, but the real key to success was Herrera, the man who was to become the architect of a team which would be christened Grande Inter, the Great Inter. With Herrera at the helm, Inter soon became a dominant force both in Italy and Europe. Between 1961 and 1967, the Milanese side won 3 league titles, 2 European Cups, and 2 Intercontinental Cups. It wasn't just silverware they collected. Their success on the continent ensured the club developed a huge nationwide fan base, which saw Inter fans springing up in villages, towns and cities all across Italy. As for lyrics to a certain Celtic song declare, this truly was the team all Italy adored. Adored as they were, there was also no shortage of critics. In particular, those who prescribed to the beautiful game found Inter's style of football a little too pragmatic. For purists, there was a deep cynicism to Inter's play and a win-at-all-cost attitude, which no amount of trophies could justify. Most of his criticism came from Inter's frequent reliance on the infamous Catenaccio system. Catenaccio, which loosely translated means the padlock, was the notorious ultra-defensive style which was first introduced to the game by Swiss coach Karl Rappin in the 1930s. But while Rappin may have invented Catenaccio, there is little doubt it was Herrera who perfected it. It would, however, be wrong to dismiss Herrera's Inter as purely a defensive side. Sure, this was their key strength, but they also posed a goal threat from virtually every outfield position, racing forward in rapid, lethal counter-attacks. Herrera was one of the first coaches to utilise his fullbacks as an attacking force, and this is evident in the fact that magnificent left-back Fichetti scored more than 70 goals during his illustrious career. Like a cornered snake, Inter's natural instinct was to defend. But when the moment came, it could also attack with a deadly swiftness. While no one could question Herrera's success on the pitch, plenty raised eyebrows at his methods off it. Herrera encouraged his players to prepare for matches through meditation, and before games, he would gather his team in a circle, throw a ball at each player, and scream instructions in their face before finally embracing them as they went out onto the pitch. His most famous trait involved devising slogans aimed at inspiring his team to further success. In Big Brother style, these slogans would then be posted around the Inter dressing room. The original master at mind games, Herrera would proudly declare that his team had often won the match before they even left the dressing room. It was no idle boast. Against such formidable opposition, it is no surprise that most teams did indeed feel defeated before a ball had been kicked. Jockstein Celtic were not most teams. As Celtic arrived at the stadium to train on the evening before the final, they were met by the Inter team just finishing their session. Instead of retiring to the showers, the Italian players and their manager congregated on the touchline, and there they stayed, watching every second of Celtic's training routine. It was classic Herrera. The next day, May the 25th, with minutes remaining to kick off, the two teams were standing together in the tunnel. Jimmy Johnston would comment that the Inter players all looked like movie stars. For all Celtic's domestic dominance that season, it paled into insignificance in comparison to the achievements of these men who had conquered Europe and the world. Bertie Auld response to this moment of apprehension has of course gone down in Celtic folklore. His leading of the players in singing the Celtic song, as they began the long walk up the tunnel, sent not just a message of defiance to Inter, but one of inspiration to Celtic. Inter may well have been grande, but Celtic too were also a grand old team to play for. Jock Stein then struck a psychological blow. He got reserve keeper John Fallon to claim the bench nearest the halfway line. This act did not impress the Inter officials. It was a small, seemingly trivial act of defiance. But what was clear to all was that this club, which for so long represented the underdog, would not now, in its finest hour, be bullied by anyone. When the players emerged from the tunnel, the Celtic team appeared blinking in the sunshine, like miners emerging from the bowels of the earth. Stein would have been forgiven for thinking back to his days as a collier. He'd come a long way, from toiling underground at Ernott Pit to guiding Celtic to the summit of European football. He was now close to completing the most remarkable journey. But the giant of European football, Helenio Herrera, stood between him and this majestic peak. What happened over the next 90 minutes is written in the heart of every Celtic fan. Stein and Celtic did not defeat Inter, they destroyed them. The scoreline was 2-1, but the reality was, this was a beating which left Inter and Herrera battered and broken. Catenaccio was savaged by what Big Jock described as pure, beautiful, inventive football. How ironic, but it was a rampaging fullback who hit the cannonball shot that eventually breached Inter's resilient defence. That fine Tommy Gemmell strike was of course followed by Stevie Chalmers' late winner. It was a goal which brought both victory and justice. It was also a goal that brought down the curtain on one of Europe's greatest ever club sides. Grande Inter were no more. And for Helenio Herrera, it was the beginning of the end. He would be sacked by Inter, and he never again came close to reaching the heights he had once so frequently scaled. What Jock Stein and Celtic achieved in Lisbon was much more than win the European Cup. They heralded a new era in football. They were a green and white whirlwind which blew away the football establishment and their old negative ways. Almost 80 years from the day they were founded to feed the poor in Glasgow's East End, Celtic Football Club had struck another blow for the underdog.
We thought we were never going to score. The Italians, to my mind, actually, they made it easy for us because we should probably thank Jim Craig for giving away the penalty kick, because as soon as they scored from the penalty kick, they sat back and gave us the ball. And there wasn't a team in the world at that time could sit back and give Celtic the ball for 90 or 80 minutes, what was left of the match, and without scoring, because with so many potential goal scorers. If you take out Ronnie Simpson and John Clark, everybody else was a potential goal scorer. And if you look at the tape of that game, I mean, there were so many shots from so many people on target or off target that, you say to yourself, well, they're going to do this. But the longer the game went on, the more you say to yourself, well, is this going to be one of these days we're going to have 100% possession but nothing to show for it? And it looked as if that's what was going to happen. Until, as you know yourself, Jim Craig did his major run down the right-hand side, and I actually should get my backside kicked, because I should never have been in the position I was in anyway, because if he was forward, I was supposed to be back. I said, well, go for it. And if you watch that goal, you'll see an Italian defender coming out to block me, and about 2 yards before he comes to me, he actually stops and turns his back. If that guy takes one more pace, the face of Celtic history has changed, because I wouldn't have scored, he would have blocked the shot. And, well, it's a great goal. Some folks said that if there hadn't been a net there, they might have caught the ball in Paris.
Of course, wave after wave of attack continued.
Yeah, they just kept going because they sat back, and we could see their legs were going as well. Now, they were used to playing in the heat, and that day it was 85 degrees. And you would have thought we were the team actually who were used to playing in the heat. After that, we could have scored 3 or 4, but for the brilliance of Sartre. And it was great to see Stevie poking that one away.
At the end of that season, after that final, did you realise what you'd all achieved?
I don't think so, because we played about 2 weeks later, if I remember correctly. We played in Di Stefano's Testimonial in Madrid, and I mean, we'd won the European Cup, but I mean, it hadn't really sunk in. I don't think we realised the enormity of what we'd done, and I don't think, well, as far as I'm concerned personally, I don't think it was until the 25th anniversary a couple of years ago that it really came home to me what we'd actually done. When we saw the reception we got from packed dinners and so forth, from the punters who were there, I mean, it was absolutely out of this world. And the boys all talked about it. They said, well, gee, now we know what we did.
And there he is, Tommy Gemmell with the Scottish League Cup. Dundee's first victory since 1952 when he beat Commander. What a moment for Tommy Gemmell.
To Murdoch. In comes Gray. Gemmell, he's scored a great goal! He's done it! Gemmell, a great goal! 17 minutes of the second half gone, and that could be the goal that wins it for Celtic, because Inter now have to come out.
As the ceiling flew away, when we call out for another drink, the waits are brought a tray, and so
Gemmell. Murdoch. It's there! Celtic has scored! I think Chalmers put it in, but it doesn't matter. Murdoch Johnson, a kilted gentleman on the pitch. Only 5 minutes to go, and without a doubt, the European Cup is on its way to Glasgow.
they might tell that her face at first just goes the